Photo++ started with an idea about how to take the photograph and organize all these artists who go beyond the traditional use of photography. And it really did start, I guess, with Robert Heineken. And I started there, and everything sort of fell into place perfectly, I think. And the pairings I was so happy with, and again, the artists, everyone contributed so much to the show, and it worked out really well. And Doug had given a lecture at Santa Ana College when I worked there a couple years ago, and it was such a great lecture. I thought it would be great to bring him back, and especially with the piece that he has in his exhibition, it was one of these things that stuck with me for a while, and I thought, this is perfect. What a great opportunity. So I'm so glad that you're here, and that we have some people here to listen to the lecture, and I'm looking forward to it. So put our hands together.
All right, it's fun to be here again, Doug McCulloh. A lot of what I do, my own projects, revolve around my own belief, and I think, you know, a lot of art comes out of who people are. And I grew up, my father is a geologist, and my mother was a refugee. So the combination is a bit strange. On my mother's side, it's like things can change really fast and you might have to actually leave your own country and get out. And on my father's side, you know, it's drive past the San Gabriel Mountains and he'd say, you know, those are like 16 million years old, they're pretty new. And meanwhile, you know, you're like a speck. So I kind of grew up with this sense of chance and contingency and the fact that you don't really matter. And I think that's true. Gina here, whose piece is over there, had me sit on the couch and she's asking everybody a question, which has to do, if you were to leave your house and never come back, what would you change, what would you leave if that's the only thing people would kind of make sense of you, you know, from? And my answer was, you know, it doesn't matter, no one's going to remember you anyway. That's sort of, I mean, really, they won't, they really won't, you don't matter. You know, I kind of, like my dad looks at Southern California and says, God, it's a damn mess, but don't worry, give it 200,000 years, it's just a layer of strata. Right, so that's how I grew up. So I don't know, it's a bit of an odd, it's a bit of an odd space, but I think it really is the way the universe operates. So I've always been very drawn to systems that use chance or that employ, you know, chance operations the way John Cage would write music by throwing the I Ching, except I'm a photographer. As a, you know, it's clear that photography, and apologies to the painters, is the medium. You know, I mean, this is how we live with images. And how we know paintings, for the most part, are photographs of paintings. Right? There's a great quote about Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty, which someone first saw a photo of it and said, man, he went to a lot of work so that you could have a nice photo of a spiral. It's pretty great. But I think that is the way that it is. Susan Sontag talked about photography being sort of a meta-art, the art that devours all the other arts. And I love it. It starts to raise questions now. If there are so many images, why the hell does someone still travel to shoot penguins? I can go on Google image search and search penguin, I'll probably get, what, like 18 million penguins? Like, there are so many images in the world, why make any images? Why not recycle them? And then even more troubling is, if there are so many images, does each subsequent one like devalue all the other ones? Like, what do they mean anymore? If there's 18 million photos of penguins, or billion photos, I don't know, then what, if you make a new photo of a penguin, what the hell are you doing? Like, what does that mean? What meaning is in that photo? And that applies to not just penguins, but everything. It's like, the problem we have is that we're completely inundated in photos, and yet somehow the currency is debased. You know, they aren't really, the photos aren't worth that much. They don't have any meaning. That's not to say they can't. I think they really, really, really can, but it becomes more and more challenging. And if I was a photo student now, I'd be like, oh my God, I can make a billion photos. I can go out with my iPhone and shoot 1,000 photos this afternoon. But how do I get one photo that actually means something, right? It's kind of terrifying. You actually presumably want to make images that actually carry some weight, have some meaning, communicate something. And that's what is cool about this show, is I think that this show explores the idea of how do you go beyond just a photograph into photos that are embedded in other sets of meaning. And that, to some extent, that is a tradition that is really based in the West Coast of the United States, you know? There's always been two sides to photography on the West Coast. There's the Ansel Adams Weston tradition and many others. And then there's the sort of weird rebellion against them. There's make it look beautiful, and then there's a homeboy, Louis Baltz, grew up in Newport Beach, who said, you know what? Things look really crappy. I hate Irvine. I'm going to make it look horrible. I'm just going to show it the way it is, and it is horrible. I have a couple. I love Louis Baltz. I don't know. Do people know Louis Baltz?
Yeah.
Great, terrific photographer. And clearly the most famous one from Newport. He has some great, I collect photo quotations, so I always like to start with a couple of photo quotes. I have a website called photoquotations.com. So here's Louis Baltz. Coming from Orange County, I was trying to find a vocabulary to mediate my sense of unspeakable horror at being born when and where I was. He hated Orange County. He grew up going, I hate Orange County, which is pretty strange. But cameras can express all kinds of things. Here's another Louis Baltz. He's kind of a dyspeptic guy, which I really like. I remember that for some California photography exhibition in the 1980s, someone interviewed Robert Fichter, who said he described the photo community as being like a lovely little sun-drenched Greek island. I thought that was really generous. I thought it more Appalachia than Santorini, some dank mountain valley where brothers have been screwing their sisters for generations and everybody talks a little funny. Louis Baltz. One last one about LA, because he, as much as he didn't like Orange County, he actually hated LA more. I never did understand LA really. I always believed that God would destroy LA for its sins. Finally, I realized that he had already destroyed it and then left it around as a warning. Which is terrific. So this show essentially, I think, comes out of, I don't know, what did you call it? Like conceptually based, or?
I think it can be viewed a couple ways.
Yeah.
Just pretty photographs,
right?
But then tying everything together and relating everything to each other. So there is a conceptual tie.
Yeah.
That is in a variety of different ways of approaching a photograph.
And this all has another layer. The photo, it just isn't a photo. So I'll talk briefly about a couple of sets of these. I mean, I love this whole show. The Heinekens really are great, and there's a few sort of generations of people in this. Because Heineken, I think Lori Brown studied with Heineken, and I'm sort of a bit one stage younger than those guys, but the Heinekens he's already in the 70s and before into, you know what, there's so many images around, why should I use a camera? So these things are you know, photos that were printed in magazines, and then he prints through them, if you know how they're made. So he tears out a magazine piece that has photos on both sides, and then he contact prints it onto photo paper, shining a light through so you get both of them, and the juxtapositions. And he was interested in all the messages that were carried in those images and in the magazines and in the text, and there's whole sets of these. These are some really good ones, but there's a lot more that carry various things. And if you've been running around and seeing any of the giant Pacific Standard Time shows, there have been Heinekens all over the place. Very influential. My own piece, I guess you guys all know the secret. It's called Taking Photographs. It's all of these. And it's a companion piece to some stuff that I won't show, but some years ago I won the right to name a street, and there's a book called Dream Street, and I kind of followed along as this crazy track was built, which is a whole nother crazy story. But while I was just starting on that, I started going to model homes, you know, because the model homes were on Dream Street, my street. So, and I would, you know, the model homes, has everybody been to model homes? Aren't they great?
Yeah.
They're so great. They're all furnished, and you know, there's music playing, and they have, some of them have little scent emitters in the kitchen, so it smells like cookies. I mean, it's just fantastic. And you know, they're furnished and just beautiful. And you know why is that they're really, as always, selling you a dream. You know, it's hard to sell like just drywall and wallpaper and 2x4s. You know, you can't do that. You want to sell, man, if we get this house, look at our life. We're gonna transform ourselves if we buy this house. I mean, they sell you a dream, they actually deliver a mortgage, but you know, I guess you get a house. So among the things in the houses, of course, are photos everywhere because we live in a world of photos. So the story, to boil it way down, is that I go and just steal the photos out of the frames. I actually put a new one in because it only seems fair. I don't know. People have asked, like, do you put, your own photos in? No, that'd be like a different project. That doesn't seem right. So, but I carry a big sheath around and kind of try and find one that fits the theme. And I have a system where I can really hastily take a frame apart. Like, I had to practice for a while before my first house because I was kind of nervous. By now, I've stolen them out of hundreds of houses. So I'm pretty good at it. So, I mean, in case I'm a little disappointed every time I come here. The first thing I did, I don't know if I came over and checked to see if anybody had stolen any of mine. At which point I would go, that would be really cool. But in case you want to steal one, the way to do it out of the model home, just so that you know, is you got to take the frame apart, and then there's the glass. The problem is not replacing, the problem is sizing your randomly sized photo to the frame, right? That's the trouble. So I quickly figured out, practicing with a frame at my house, that you could take time, steal the photo, an artist runs across glass out, take your new photo. If you can steal a part of a dream, what artist could resist that? You know? Yeah.
Doug, did you ever get caught?
Yeah, that's my question. And have you ever broken one of the frames?
Oh, these are great questions. No, I haven't broken a frame. I'm pretty careful, although I'm fast. And I've never been caught. There have been times. Somebody else asked, do you have like a lookout or something? And I like to operate by myself because it just gets so. But there have been times where suddenly someone's coming in and wait, they're coming up the stairs. I'm like, I'm in some side bedroom. And then on top of it, I have to keep track of like where the house is, how much it costs, what bedroom or wherever it came out of. It's like kind of museum accession notes. What was the, square footage price of the house and stuff. I don't know. The problem, and I would have to ask you, is I think I'm stealing dreams, and I love the kind of collection of them, this being a sample, and I think the staging of it and the hanging of it is beautiful, which, yes. Oh, okay, yeah. So do you guys end up reading it as some expression of dreams? Or, I mean, and I have to add that maybe if there's something weird where there's like a slippage, like what the hell, like the far upper left, there's like this sort of weird child molester uncle with two young girls, it's like, that seems wrong. Why would you put that in a model home? And I will gravitate to those, so maybe there's some undercurrents to the dream.
I noticed there's mostly kids, majority-wise.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at it before we just learned what the history was, I was just finding it interesting how there's more children than I expected. But now it fits how it's in a model home of dreams for people that want to raise families.
Yeah, it's true. Although, like, what's that guy right there, I think you could generate some children. But, yeah, I know, it is. It's somehow that this is, you will have a great life with you and your family.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty nice. And I think it's a beautiful companion piece to Gina Genesis' piece. This is Gina again. Over here, where this is like a house where things have gone horribly wrong and it's a pack rat and everybody's, so this is the idealized before you get the house, and then This is, you got the house and then things go off the rails, right? It just doesn't work out
When the
quite
mortgage
right.
starts arriving.
Yeah. So it's a pretty nice pair in general. I thought I would show some other things of mine, since this is my talk, that also use different strategies that come out of this sort of seizing or sampling or chance sampling that are photo-based. This is one, and boy, you can't really see this, so I have some details. These are, the titles are the full recipe to make it. So if you guys wanted to go home and make these, you could do it just based on my titles. So the real thing is 80 inches tall. It's like really big, so what's that, 7 feet something? I don't know, it's really quite large. One giant photo, face mounted on Plex, they're quite beautiful. And this one is called War and Peace. So the title is Google image search, any size, no filter, war/peace. So in my head, it's the same, it's like a lot easier. You just go on your computer and you say, what does our database photo world think that peace is? Like, what is its view of peace? And you'll get these tremendous returns, you know, millions, hundreds of millions of photos flowing into your computer. It's fantastic. So this is war. These are details out of that piece. So, you know, it's just whatever comes along. And another war one out of the same. It's pretty strange because there's everything from, like, you know, these quite famous, that's a Gene Smith from World War II, another Gene Smith, to, you know, there's peace, which is pretty strange. I don't know, you know, it's like, okay, like a thermonuclear weapon in the shape of a peace sign? I don't know what. It's pretty.
And what's the gun up in the corner?
Yeah.
Tied in the barrel's tied in the
Oh.
Yeah. But, you know, I don't know. I'm merely a reporter here. And here's another peace one.
I expected a peace sign.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Lots of them.
Strange. You know, I don't know. This kind of photography, this is like meta photography. This is a kind of photography that you just do with your computer and you say, what does the image world think of this theme? The deal is, if you went out and tried to shoot a photo of peace, what would you shoot? I don't know. You don't need to, is the bottom line. Instead, you can get 100 million versions of what everybody else thinks is peace.
There's a human person on the bottom right and an aura kind of thing.
Right. At this point, and I think on a lot of, maybe all my projects, I don't really want to be a creator so much as like a conduit, you know? And I think if you ask the right questions, that's another John Cage thing. He said, I try to ask the right questions and then I let chance answer them. So in this case, it's like frame the question and then let the Google image world. So this one is God, man, heaven, hell. Kind of metaphysical. I was like, if I can shoot photos of anything, then, you know, how would you shoot photos of hell, right? It's going to be hard, I think. But in this case, you can do it. So what's kind of cool is, so that's God and then man. You can sort of see the stripes. Heaven and hell pretty differentiated. God and man, pretty much the same.
I've looked up hell before. It's kind of interesting. I looked up demons too.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
just
cool.
to see the images.
There you go. So you're already doing it. So I'll show you some details of that. God, there's a lot of different versions of God.
Yep.
I mean, this is just a little sample out of that. And you know, whatever turns up, I'm sort of like, here's our familiar one. I guess that's Santorum's. I don't know.
Krishna's up there.
Yeah, but then like Elvis, I don't know.
Elvis?
It's pretty great. Yeah, the lower left one.
There's the
That's
upbeat
pretty great.
Chairman Mao.
So this is then, yeah, man. which you
Blue
get.
Man Group.
Blue Man Group. There you go. I like to see now, some of them, you know, I mean, it's not a random assortment because I gather them all just from whatever turns up, but then the actual pieces are assembled, so I kind of like this, you know, like with that one at the end. You can see the dolphins and the guy. It's like, that's pretty strange.
Cowardly lion.
Yeah, another man one with the man ray, right? See that man ray eye? You can start to puzzle out why they Mr. Some might have.
Yes.
Pretty strange.
Mr. T.
Heaven. Wow, there's a lot of different heavens. I don't know. I don't know. You guys are kind of far away. You can't really see these too well, but there's some dreams of heaven. There's like this little bunny with a giant carrot, because that's the bunny heaven or something like that. Pretty. And this is next to it somebody else's notion that's altogether realistic. But it's great, isn't it great? It's like so. And then hell. Wow. You know, with some comment about, you know, so that's actually Auschwitz. Yeah. Ahmadinejad, Hillary Clinton.
Anyone could be in hell. Anyone could be.
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, it's pretty, I really like it. So then this one, I've done a lot of these. This one is the 7 Deadly Sins and the 7 Dwarves.
Oh, cool.
So I can show you some details of that. You gotta try it. So gluttony, and then it's this, envy, with an occasional dwarf thrown in. Pride. So again, that's really a huge thing. If people end up like weirdly spending like a half an hour looking at every little photo. It's so strange. This is anger with a little bit of greed thrown in. Isn't it great? Like, how could you, I mean, it's pretty great. A bullet going through a heart. I don't know. It's pretty fabulous. What I don't know, are there any comments about that? Or like,
I'm glad for the internet because now the whole world can express themselves.
Yeah. I know. And then the database aspect of it, or the tagging aspect of it, is that they've said this is what I think is anger, right? So then it's like this compound version of, it's a way to photograph just total abstract things. Shame, you know, what's shame? But now you can do it. You know, there's this meta photo. I don't know, it's pretty strange. And I think it changes over time, which would be another thing. I mean, the real version of this would be constantly sampling that universe and projecting it. Because then it's like the frequency of which ones come and go swings in and out of, I don't know, there's endless possibilities.
I can tell though, like when the feeling I get with the heaven images, I'll get a heavenly feeling. And then the hell ones, I'll get a horrific hell feeling. And it stays like...
Is everybody else doing that too? It feels hellish?
Well, for the ones that look horrific. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty there.
What feelings do you get from this? You know, hell,
it feels horrible.
Yeah, that demon looks pretty scary.
In the end, you know, my whole chance thing is that I think, you know, that we might think we have a lot of control, but I don't think we really have much control at all. So a lot of my thinking about projects, and I'll inflict a few more, go to, well, if chance really runs our world, then what's the chanciest kind of photography? Which got me going down a strange track that has to do, and this is early stuff, with blind photographers. I mean, the thinking was, okay, photography is like a visual quote-unquote thing. So what if you couldn't see anything? Wouldn't that be the chanciest possible kind of photography? So the first thing I did was track down a sculpture student at the Braille Institute on Vermont in LA, this guy Charles Ernst. And we started going around. He would shoot all the photos. Just put the camera on automatic. Nobody even worries about any of that. Just put it on automatic. The cameras are fabulous. Photography now is really no technical anything is required. And I think teaching it f-stops, who cares? Put it on automatic. No, I mean really, that's terrible. And I've taught a lot of photography, but you don't have to anymore. Instead, it's like, how do you get some meaning into the damn thing? That's where we are. That's where the crisis is. Is like there's a million photos, but they don't mean anything. My thought was that if a blind person was shooting a photo, automatically, like, that's inherently conceptual. There is meaning in that photo, even if that photo looks like every other photo. It still is like mine. It's like kids or the wind or laughter somewhere or something. I mean, he can't see. It's fantastic. And Disneyland, you know, is not Mickey and the ethnically balanced happy group of kids in front of the castle, right? It's like random people aimed in different directions and lines and, you know. So we went to the Golden Gate Bridge. I love this photo. I mean, it's pretty strange. So he was shooting the sound, like the sound of the waves against the, so you get this, and there's a little bit of the Golden Gate in the corner, you know. I would mess this all up because, like, wait, there's the bridge, it looked beautiful. You know, Ansel, he needed to just be blind. Or beaches, you know, Southern California beach, like,
That's fabulous.
that's the best.
Yeah.
It's totally the best. I don't even know how you would do that. Like, what the hell, how did that happen? You can't even see. What ends up happening, oh, you know, Yosemite, and so there's the falls, but this is what it really looks like, you know? This sort of Lewis
Yeah.
Falls, you know, and he's like, I can hear it. Should I shoot? Yeah, sure. Or all these people aimed in different directions. I don't know, Las Vegas, another iconic place.
Wow.
So my friends and family are all like, okay, let me get this straight. All you've ever done is photography. You have an MFA, you've got all these degrees, you've taught, you do all this stuff, and now you're traveling and paying for someone else to go with you. They're shooting all the photos and they're blind, is that correct? and I have to say, well, yeah. But I don't know, you know, it's pretty fantastic. It's just so he's shooting by all kinds of other criteria. I don't know, Marcel Duchamp talked about non-retinal art, art of idea, of imagination. So this is non-retinal photography, is what this is. New Orleans. I have a friend who's a good photographer. I just talked to him this afternoon in New Orleans, and he's like, "This is the best photo I've ever seen of New Orleans." And he's just shooting at the street musician, the trombone guy, and it's kind of night, you know. So he's, I don't know, I do love it. And there's a strange poignancy in the fact that Charles can never see these photos.
Mm-hmm. Is he completely stone blind, like
blind?
Nothing?
Completely blind. Yeah, they call it total. I now know a lot about blindness and photography. So then I've gone on from this to curate a show called Sight Unseen that was at the California Museum of Photography. It's now been traveling all over. That is actually international blind photographers. I've slowly gotten to know. I'm like the world expert on blind photographers. I'm the only person interested, actually, except for maybe you guys. Now, I think that it's really at, you know, it's not outside of photography, it's at the very heart of photography. Because if you talk to, not Charles necessarily, but all these photographers who I've gotten to know who are blind, the question is not how you shoot. They're like, oh, that's dumb. You press the button like anyone else, right? They just put it on automatic and go. But it's like, why? Why would you shoot photos? And there's a bunch of reasons, but it essentially boils down to, one of them, Pete Eckert, says, I'm a very visual person, I just can't see. They have tremendous visual worlds in their mind, and that's where it comes from. In the end, art, photography, painting is a mental construction. It's not a visual construction. And it finally gets to the heart of photography, which is, you know, so Pete Eckert again, he'll phone me constantly, like every other day. Hey, and he's working out these visualizations in his head, and he built a 30-foot deep shooting studio in his backyard. He'll build sets, he'll cast people, he'll set up his 4x5 view camera, and he'll, in total darkness, which is his normal world, right? He'll open the camera, so the shutter's open, and he'll walk around with any kind of light source, flashlights, he's set up gunpowder, he's done, oh man, crazy, and he'll paint in the subject with the light, and wherever the light, like if he was shooting you, wherever the light hit you, that film's soaking up that image, until he creates a version of the image that's in his mind for us to see. Another one of these photographers, Eugene Bouchard in Paris, apologizes because you can't see the originals, right? They're in his mind. You have to make do with the reproductions that are on the wall. Wow. It turns everything on its head. It's finally like, you know what? I think photographers, especially trained photographers, are the blindest people. We're the ones who've inflicted blindness on the world. That's why everybody shows up at some iconic place like Disneyland, and it isn't Mickey and the ethnically balanced group of kids in front of the castle. Instead, it's like long lines, and you know, it's a disappointment to actually go and see anything original. I don't recommend it. You know, if you've never been somewhere, Luxor, don't go because it's a mess. You know, or the Colosseum, it's like stranded in hellish traffic in Rome. It's just disastrous. Don't go there. Stick with the photos. They're better because the photographers have shot it a certain way that the Colosseum is supposed to be and exported this blindness on the rest of us. So, all right, I'm ranting now. Does that make any sense at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the dream selling the house.
Yeah, it's connected. So we go to New York. Isn't it great?
I love that.
It's the best.
I like how it's so centered.
Yeah.
You know, there's a central figure in there. The person in the middle right there, face.
It is the best.
Well, I
New
like
York.
the idea of shooting towards the sound.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a synesthesia.
It's pretty great. One of the ones in Sight Unseen is Henry Butler, who's a world-famous blues pianist, W.C. Handy Award, and he's intensely audio-oriented. So he's like totally operating by sound. It's pretty amazing. So these are in New York. You know, we went up to Empire State Building, and it's like, everybody else, I don't know if you've been up there, it's like, everybody else is like, if they're scared of heights, it's like, and he's like, hey, are we high? And, you know, leaning over, and then people are like, ooh, what the hell, he can't see anything. So he's like, don't drop my camera. I was like, you can't do any better. Like, I would screw this all up.
See, it's still in the center right there.
Yeah, so, well, I guess. You know, I would like move in on this crazy giant mega ad here, but he has the weird guy going, why is the guy with the white cane shooting a photo? And then it's got this very phallic thing here to connect with that, and then it's balanced off like that. I mean, you can't, I don't know, I think that chance delivers magic. I just do. It's just amazing. If you try and control things, you can't possibly, I have the disability of sight. I would screw this up, you know. Yeah, we went to Pisa. I don't know. It's like, I love this. The big stain, the weird guy, the, you know.
On a side thing,
Yeah.
they figured out the technology to tilt it back straight,
Yeah.
but they won't because
Yeah.
they will ruin every picture
Right.
ever taken of it being leaning. You know,
That's great.
Yeah.
so
I like
it
that
has
a lot.
to be leaning now.
It has to be, yeah, right. You have to take the
Who
lean.
would
go?
why
The
would you
lean
go?
function, yeah, the
It's
autocorrect
tower.
lean off, otherwise you, that's beautiful. Although there was an early photo where somebody half dome, they shot half dome, and I think Jerry Wilsman, and they did darkroom magic, so it's called whole dome. Like they put it really seriously, I'm not kidding about that. So the David with the head cut off, the David, and then this random group of people looking very kind of, I don't know, I just, anyhow, I love, so that's blindness, and I sort of inflicted some sight unseen blindness on you. Some other real quick ones that go along the same direction. This is a whole nother project. You might guess who the photographer is. In a bit, it's not me. You might notice the low angle. Any guesses so far?
Grandkid?
Grandkid, no, but it is a kid. Yeah, it's a baby. It's my graphic designer friend Lisa's daughter. At age, that's Lisa. This is like the camera strap. On Sienna's first birthday, well, when Lisa was pregnant, I asked her, you know, I have this idea of getting a camera for a kid before they can walk or talk and seeing what they will do. With the idea really that I'm interested in the photos, like it's a pretty low angle, it's like Lisa's leg or something. But it's sort of long-term experiment, like what will she be like when she's 18, right? Will she be hyper-visual or, I don't know. And so I went into Sammy's, the pro shop at Sammy's, and said I want to buy a camera for Sienna's first birthday. And you know, it's got to have round corners. It can't have a lot of controls. It has to be menu driven so it can't get messed up, and a really big trigger button. And finally they're going, what the hell is this for, you know? So on her first birthday, got her, and the cool thing is you can obviously set up a digital camera that she can see the photo right away, which is totally different. So there she is, looking through the wrong side of the camera. And there's been this whole progression, it still goes on, of like, this is her, and then there was sort of possession, you know, I guess, I don't have kids, but this is my foot. You know, and then there's like, my other foot, there's my mom. They all look horrible. And I think they're way more real. This is the bottom line, is that this is the same as the blindness, is the same as the sampling, is the same as somehow, if you take yourself out of that equation, then these things are more immediate, more quote unquote real, whatever the hell that means. Dad, I don't know, it's pretty great. It's like my foot and Dad, I don't know. And now she's become the camera person. Like, she'll go over to friends' houses, and if there's a camera, that's her camera. Like, she's going to shoot photos.
How old is she now?
She is now 6.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it's progressed. So we've been collecting all the photos, and I don't know, it's pretty strange. So that is an early moment where she accidentally set the self-timer, and it had a little red light that beep, 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 beep. And Mom and Sienna are like, what's that red beeping light? At which point, boom, you know, shot off the couch at them. I got another, these are like glimpses of things. So I had a friend, Kevin Boyle, I don't know if anybody knew Kevin Boyle. He worked at Mocha and a photographer and elsewhere. Terrific guy. He got malignant melanoma, grew up in Seal Beach. Surfer, and you know, like on a Tuesday, and like any other Tuesday, he found a lump under his left arm, and it was diagnosed, you know, stage 4. There is no stage 5, and he became the longest living survivor at the John Wayne Cancer Institute in Santa Monica ever, 7 years, which is pretty amazing. I don't know. You go down there, and Kevin, he's just a great guy. So, a couple years before he died, in a fairly extravagant moment, I bought him a really nice underwater camera, which then he took outside the break. You know, he'd go to San Onofre all the time and float, surfers floating, waiting and stuff. So when he died, which was in my spare bedroom, because his family sort of disintegrated, and my wife and I took him in, and he gave me that camera back. So it's like a haunted underwater camera with this weird history. So what I've been doing is go to big, huge, mega resorts. I've become quite expert at sniffing into pools. Another project is Chance Encounters, which I have a big, huge, there's a book on this, like the Dream Street, there's a book. I have a giant map of all of urban Los Angeles County, so it's like as tall as I am and like 12 feet wide on gator board, keep it behind the door of my studio. And it's got a grid of 1/4 mile squares overlaid urban Los Angeles County. So there's 5,151 of these damn squares. I've been doing this forever. So the rules are, I have a way to shake up these containers and randomly pick one square, and I have to go there and spend the whole day and walk around 1/4 mile square, wherever it is. And I have preempting your questions. No, I haven't been shot. I have been threatened. There have been some ugly.
Anybody stole your camera?
No one's stolen my camera. There have been people following me. Hey, Mr. Cameraman! You know, I stayed too late in Lincoln Heights one night. It was not good. And the police have been called on me. You know what? There's some guy in the neighborhood with a Nikon. We don't know who he is. That's pretty crazy.
I think we need to be bail buddies.
Yeah, that's right. So these all have, they have stories that go with them.
That looks like it's in the LA River.
This is in the LA River.
Yeah.
And it's underneath the Long Beach Boulevard Bridge on the side channel. So it's in my square, so I'm walking around, and this guy, short guy, beautifully dressed with this incredible horse, comes riding along, and because I have a camera, he like showboats, you know? He's doing spins like boom, 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 boom. I love the photo. It turns out that he grew up in Watts, really poor, but he's a little shrimpy black guy whose grandfather had tended horses on a plantation in the South. So he grew up around horses. He's a jockey at Santa Anita in the big tracks. And on his days off, he rides these incredible horses through like fairly rough neighborhoods on the LA River Channel. His name's Tahiti. By the time I got to this Sunday afternoon drive-by shooting in Huntington Park, they had cut the clothes off of this kid, the paramedics had cut the clothes off. You can see a pile of clothes and like a big pool of blood there. The little white things off on the left are like where there were bullet casings, and the homicide detectives, they thought he would die. He didn't die. So the homicide detective, I'm like there with my wide angle. You know, just take one lens, yeah. But I like the construction of it all. I don't know, it's like very reflexive shooting. This is where I think I get the, no, this is, I'm sorry I actually made these photos rather than take them, but it is strange where you try and, the idea of doing the chance thing is to take some element of control away from yourself. It's not my neighborhood, I don't know what's going to happen, I'll just go there. You know, so one camera, one lens, and a little notepad, and walk around. And a quarter-mile square, you can see the whole thing in one day. So these are a few. This is Rocky. His owner had he kind of had the run of the manor stylist. His owner, Nate. I have a good quote from Nate. I think I have it probably wrong. So this is in the South Bay. Nate said, when I started, there were nothing but fields from here to the refinery. I had 6 shops, and then the goddamn Beatles came along, and people went years without cutting their hair. In 1970, I was down to this place. It's the most run-down shop you've ever seen in your life. And what kind of gets cut off in the PowerPoint is that there's a photo of a kid with a dog up in the corner, which is like one of those things where you just go, it's too perfect. And I didn't even, you know, you don't see it till later. It's like, you can't notice everything. This is Victor. He, in San Fernando, he and some friends have a business essentially exporting American cast-offs to Central America. So it was right before Christmas, and he's fixing a bumper hitch. Otherwise they would have left. So they buy Toyota trucks, they only like Toyotas. And each truck tows another truck. In one case, one of them was towing a boat. And then they build these big sidewalls up, which then they fill with stereos and tools and all kinds of stuff that they acquire or buy. I'm not sure exactly how it works. And then 3 of them, each driving a truck, towing another one, drive all the way across to Texas, through Mexico, Honduras, all the way to Honduras, where they sell everything right down to the bumper hitches and fly back. It's crazy. So they've done that for 6 or 7 years. That's the business.
How often do they go?
As often as they can get a load together, which is every couple of months.
Wow.
And they don't, you know, they don't drive at night. Too dangerous. They always caravan. And the biggest expense is actually not all the stuff, but it's paying the federale, the bribes, at every checkpoint all the way down. And it's dangerous. You know, it was right before Christmas, and the families, like, it started drizzling, the families are on the sidewalk, kind of tearful goodbyes, because they don't, you know, you never know. Something horrible could go wrong. Wow. I spent a couple hours on the beach in San Pedro with Leandra. She was collecting heart-shaped rocks, which are really hard. I was trying hard. I never found really a truly heart-shaped rock. She's like, what do you think?
I've actually found one at the beach once.
Really? Yeah, she was working on it. She was drinking Seagram's wild berry wine coolers out of this 4-pack and the rocks. So you have found one?
Yeah, I was like 11, and it's the only one I ever found. It was like this big.
You still have it?
Yeah, and I had it. I had metal shaped around it.
Oh man!
You know, from the
I
jeweler.
love this story.
Yeah, but it was kind of heavy.
We found one once.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I never found one. She
perfect.
kept saying, "What do you think?" And they were like, "Oh, I don't know. Something was kind of screwy." So eventually, I finally. Well, there's a long story. She got this tattoo, and then her boyfriend David, a couple months before, she said, got drunk at a party and blanked some other girl twice. I moved out. I'm not stupid. And so all these stories go along with it. So finally when I left, you know, she from a distance held up a rock and said, look, a tear-shaped rock. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, wow.
This is also in San Pedro. This is the kind of thing where, you know, you definitely, I came up this path in this park and I didn't, you know, I just shot first and then hoped it would work out. The people ask, like, do you ask permission? I'm like, not always, sometimes, but not always. This was just too perfect. So you got a sort of pager device and drinking beer out of a paper cup with this fabulous tattoo.
Oh, wow. What is it on his
Vertebrae.
Spine.
Vertebrae, it's a spine.
Wow.
What you can't see is a bunch of stuff. You know, that's the thing, is photos, there's the stuff, you know, there's a great Struth quote about the photo's always a lie because there's stuff in the frame, but there's always everything outside the frame, right? And so what's outside the frame, for starters, on the top of his head, he has a big diagonal still healing scar. He'd been at a party and got in a fight, someone hit him with a chair leg. He was in the hospital for a couple of days, so his plan was to go to the tattoo convention at the Long Beach Convention Center and get a tattoo along the scar of a zipper. Like he said, a military-style zipper, one with the big metal teeth. And then a friend of his, like outside the frame to the right, that's great, describing what's outside a photo. It's pretty great. A friend of his was teaching another person how to throw this like 8-inch throwing knife into those palm trees. So the guy who was teaching was like really good. Every time, boom, just stick in. The student, a menace, a total menace. Like he missed the tree once it bounced off and almost hit a car going by and so on. Everybody's like walking way, way around. Just beautiful. But they were really friendly. This is in Baldwin Hills, just where old Mayor Bradley used to live, just around the corner. So that was told the richest black neighborhood in America. So it was a wedding. I followed these drifting balloons until I got to this house that was in my square, and the Rolls Royce and the bride and groom, 230 people, hey, come on in. Come to the reception. I saw one other white person. It was great. So that's me shooting overhead without being able to see. That's the official photographer, the shadow there. It's pretty strange. It is amazing what happens.
Oh, there he is.
You know, I mean, there's stories for all of these. I like layers of stuff, so all of these in the book have the date, the time, how much time I spent there.
It's like you walked out of the picture and became the real life, you know.
Yeah. And I'm always sort of set up to shoot, so I have like, it's on, you know, either automatic or roughly at a wide angle, so you don't really have to focus like, boom. I don't know, this stuff is about kind of quick and crazy, I guess. Wow. There's somebody scratched Snoop Dogg's eyes out on a bus bench south of USC.
Demon Snoop.
Yeah. And this guy, I had a big conversation with him, John, in the background. He looks like something's going to happen, but he just was trying to see if the bus is coming, which is pretty great. He went into this long, rambling thing about he was planning to get out of LA, everybody makes their own path, et cetera, and I don't know, it's a long, crazy story, which I won't bother you with. This is kind of a self-portrait-y thing. So I'm looking through, this fellow's a tree trimmer. He had a problem with kidney stones, had no health insurance, he lost his job. So he's selling his household possessions to support his kids, one of whom is looking up through the frame. So I'm looking down through the frame at the kid, and it's all in the mirror, and that's, so you can kind of construct.
That's real complicated.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know, it's full of layers.
There's little baby shoes in there.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
baby shoes.
I actually bought that frame, which is not really my taste at all, and have a photo of my brother and I on top of a peak in the Canadian Rockies.
You could always leave it in a model home.
Yeah, in a model home. It'd be fitting perfectly. That'd be awesome. Maybe I could go in and change frames. That would be a couple more, and see if you guys have any other comments. This is a strange one because this is in Alhambra. This guy's named Ed, and this connects to the whole blindness thing. I was a couple blocks away, and there was someone kneeling on the sidewalk, like just like with their face like really. It turned out to be this guy And he was trimming the sprinkler wells, you know, around his sprinklers there by feel, because he's blind.
Oh.
And what I really like, which doesn't really show up in the photo, is he also mows his lawn. And he just like will mow until he hits the, you know, the planter, and then he'll turn around. But he did all this stuff himself. He's a retired engineer, worked in the aerospace industry. And maybe because of his blindness, or maybe in spite of his blindness, I don't know how to sort it out, his expertise was sonar sensing systems. Systems that look into total darkness using heat signatures. That's the best thing ever. I'm like, it is so great. I love that. I mean, the world is amazing. I mean, the whole chance thing and this sort of chance encounters is predicated on the Dada surrealist ideas of circumventing your own control, you know? Become a conduit. Don't be limited to your own, what's in your own head. That's pretty limited. The world's insane. And if the world operates by chance and contingency and out of controlness, then my idea is you use those same strategies. You use the very mode by which the world operates to get at the world itself and to get yourself out of the way, which is pretty, I don't know, it's a rich, crazy experience. One last thing is I'm one of the 6 people who made the world's largest photo. Over here it's a local project, so I thought I'd throw it in.
Awesome.
We turned that F-18 jet hangar at El Toro into, with Jerry Birchfield as another partner in crime, into the world's largest camera to make the world's largest photo, which I don't really like to talk about anymore because it's a bit, everybody like knows about that. It's like, I feel like I'm typecast in some kind of sitcom, you know, it's like,